Hello friends, I am back in Austria, land of the tall, thin, white people. I was visiting America for 2 months, as you know, because you've been faithfully binging my videos. Now I have returned to Vienna and I am adjusting once more to the sugary beer and the salty locals. My German, I have found, actually got a little bit rusty while I was away. I forgot the word I knew. So I'm adjusting to life back in Austria. I'm also sliding back into intimacy and connection with my girlfriend after having been away from her for 2 months. So this talk is about relationships, and I want to open with an extremely controversial yet interesting statement that my Zen Buddhist master once made. That statement was, in the West, there's only one true monastery. That monastery is marriage. So first of all, some of you might be wondering, Buddhist monks can marry? I didn't know that. Well, within my tradition, yeah, Zen Buddhist monks can get married. And this goes back to the late 1800s when the Emperor of Japan kind of separated Shintoism and Buddhism. They were intertwined practices and religions up to that point, but the emperor wanted to strengthen his own position as a Shintoist because Shintoism supported the emperor. So he split them apart and issued a decree, and the decree said Buddhist monks must be allowed to eat meat and get married. So cut to 200 years later, Southern California, mountaintop monastery where I cut my teeth as a monk. It's like 4 o'clock in the morning. I've just begun to settle into my life as a full-time Zen student. I'm really taking koan practice seriously. So we're in retreat and I sit all morning and suddenly I have an opening. And through that opening arises the answer to my koan. And so, ding, 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 that's the bell to signal that it's time to go see Roshi for koan practice. So I run out of the Zen, I push people out of my way, I throw on my sandals, I frickin' hightail it through the snow. This is how we did koan practice. And I run into the Sanzen waiting room and I bang the bell 2 times, blast down the gravel path, whip off my shoes, hurl myself into the room, bam, bam, do all my 3 great bows. I look at Roshi, I say, my koan is, and I give my answer. But of course, Roshi then says, no, not good answer. Your answer, much energy, but wrong. So I'm like, what the, dude? Then he begins to teach me Buddhism. He says, when you look up in the sky, where are you? And he makes this beautiful expansive gesture. And he says, when you are in the garden and you see oak tree, where are you? And he blossoms like the branches and the leaves and the blooms on this oak tree. And he says, when you see a beautiful woman, oh, where are you? And by now I'm really getting into it. I can see where he's going with this. He's saying when you connect with the world around you completely, you totally forget about yourself. You forget the kinds of intellectual, rational, mental, thought-created, just answers to koans that come from up here, from your little rigid thinking system, okay? He's saying the world interpenetrates with you and you interpenetrate with the world. And through that interpenetration of inside and outside, the self spontaneously arises like a child. The child is born. The sunset comes inside you, hits your insides, and you radiate sunset through your smile and your eyes if the experience is complete. So he's teaching me Zen, okay? And then he says, where are you when you see Betsy? And I'm like, Betsy? You mean the gender non-conforming lesbian student who's around my age? Are you trying to hook me up with this person?
Hello, this is Ira Glass. Welcome to this edition of This American Zen Life. Today's question is, why did Roshi often act like a little matchmaking yenta with his Zen students?
You are never going to experience the same depth of emotion and feeling in your practice as a monk at a monastery that you will experience as a layperson in a relationship because you have no skin in the game.
And so I guess my final question here on This American Zen Life is sitting on a cushion on your ass in a monastery really an equal practice to lying in bed with a pretty good looking woman?
So this stuff can be a little bit difficult to talk about because it's very personal, but I tend to be very much an individual with strong boundaries and lots of strange little quirks, right? My girlfriend is very open-hearted and less anal retentive than I am. And so when we're lying together in bed, this is kind of a new experience for me. I'm not used to the smell or the warmth of another person lying in bed with me. When you're in a monastery, you're living, shoulder to shoulder with monks and nuns and students. Sometimes you're sleeping in the same cabin together. You're always eating your meals together. You're always practicing together. They're the first people you see in the morning. But you always somehow have your own bed to sleep in, right? This is what I mean by skin in the game in a relationship. Like if you're strong, and monasteries attract these stubborn, really strong-willed people. And you can power through 10 years at a monastery. But you want to know what you can't power through? You can't power through an intimate relationship. You have to let go. I've had to learn, especially recently, I've had to learn how to lie down next to someone in bed and learn to sleep next to someone. Learn to wake up next to someone. And I feel her warmth in bed at night now. Whereas before I was kind of just trying to fall asleep on my own and be by myself. Now she's part of my sleep. I can feel her warmth. She's actually part of me. Does that make sense? She's if me, then her. If this, then that. We're sleeping together. We're waking up together. You don't need to run off to a monastery. You've got your teacher right there in bed beside you. Your spouse, either directly or indirectly, will point out to you where you're stuck. When you're being selfish, when you're being stupid, when you're having your hang-ups. A monk once told me that when you're sitting on the cushion, you're practicing death. And when you're in a relationship and you're committed, you're doing the same thing. You're practicing thousands and thousands of tiny deaths, tiny ego deaths. But the great thing about relationship ego deaths is that you've got this beautiful person in front of you reflecting your progress back to you. Roshi used to say, when you hug your wife, when you hug your girlfriend, where are you? You do the hug completely and you dissolve completely into the hug. Whatever baggage you're carrying, man, you've got to drop it and dissolve completely in the hug. And then you let go. And the self is reborn, he would say. He was always trying to teach me to let go of and get over these boundaries and barriers, perhaps the sense that I have to intimacy and connection and whatever. And so we would hug a lot in Sansa, and he'd give me a big hug. Oh, I've done this 1,000 times in these videos, but it was a great teaching. And then you let go. You dissolve completely into the hug, into union. No self, no thinking, no wife, no husband, no boyfriend, no girlfriend. A unit, one. And then you let go and the self is reborn and you look in your spouse's eyes. When I took my monastic vows, my teacher Roshi gave a Dharma talk. And he said, being a true monk means seeing the other as yourself. And I can't think of a better definition than that of a true relationship. Okay, friends, that's all I have for today. If you can see right here, I'm projecting into the future when I will put a link to my Patreon page. If you want to support the work that I do here, man, it's so great having people come on board on that page. I've got writings on there, videos, blog posts. You're really helping me live here in Austria and support my writing and support my videos. So I really, truly appreciate that. And if you can, hit the subscribe button and the like button. Apparently there's some algorithmic universe where that will help me reach more people. So if you liked this and you want to aid in my path here, please, you know, what do they say? Schmonk the subscribe button. That sort of thing. I'm out, man. I'm done. See ya.